Well, I haven't seen her like this in a long time. Looks good. I didn't revarnish the boom. Didn't even touch it up. I just put two good coats of paint on the ends. Put the hardware back this morning. And Paul, not the legendary Sailor Paul, but a different Sailor Paul, who's working on his boat. You can hear him sanding in the background. He came and just gave me a hand from the ground, shipping that boom back onto the boat. I should have probably recorded that, but I didn't feel like it. I was busy. She's looking good. Gonna need new rigging in the near future, that's for sure. The housetop's gonna need a coat of that white. The whole boat's gotta be cleaned, the hull. Got my tiller in place. We're getting really close, really close, which is good because we have, what's today? Tuesday? Wednesday. It's a week from today, the survey, and then we launch probably 3 days after that. Good morning, it is October 2nd, 2025. It is the last full day of work on the hard for this, my first haul out with this boat. It's been 2 years and a couple of months. She came out in late August of 23. It seems like a million years ago, and it also seems like yesterday. I had the survey done yesterday. I didn't record any of that. I didn't even ask if it was okay. I didn't want to distract the surveyor. I didn't want to be distracted from kind of hovering and pointing things out and listening to his comments and all that stuff. He had questions, I had questions. It went well. I was very anxious about it, even though a boat survey, it's generally not a pass-fail kind of thing. It's not like a state-mandated inspection. This particular one, in fact, was just what they call a C&V, condition and valuation survey, so that my insurance company that I've been dealing with for liability here on the hard, a special policy, so that they'll be satisfied that they can issue me some sort of policy afloat. I already got a quote on what they're willing to offer, which will provide me with what I need to have coverage for what I want to do the next couple of years. He's going to generate a report within a few days. Generally, he gave her a thumbs up structurally. He might have pulled some fasteners. He asked me, did the insurance company insist that I pull fasteners to examine them? And I said, not that I remember. Could have stopped everything and contacted them. They probably would have said, go ahead, but I just put 2.5 coats of very expensive bottom paint on there. And I reminded him that I had pulled out old fasteners and second generation fasteners because the boat was refastened at least partially, maybe 15 years ago, maybe a little more. And he thought that was pretty good. But he reminded me that, 15 to 18 years for a Carvel plank boat with bronze fasteners, that's about the limit. So what that means is, I'm talking about the screws that hold the planks onto the frames, by the way. But generally all fasteners. He suggested that the next haul out, I take a few more out and take a good look. Seeing as how I'll be redoing bottom paint anyway, I might want to, I don't know if I'm going to take all the anti-foul off. Certainly don't want to take all the primer off, but I think that'll be worth doing. It's something you don't want to have to worry about, but it's definitely something you don't want to have to do. There's got to be, I don't know, 6,000 or 7,000 screws in the hull of this boat, and they're not cheap. And it's a lot of time and work. I don't want to be out on the hard another 2 years. I want to haul out, I don't know, maybe for the fall and winter. I don't know yet. I've got a few months to think about that, but it's going to be here before you know it, right? But the plan right now is 9 to 12 months. So late next summer, early next fall, we'll come out again and prepare for a couple of weeks on the hard at least. The other potential problem fastener-wise is the keel bolts. The keel bolts are massive bronze bolts. And I told him I didn't pull one out. In retrospect, I kind of wish I had. But he did something I hadn't heard about. He performed a test I hadn't heard about before. He took a small ball peen hammer, and on the inside, where they're exposed, He went to every one and tapped on them. How that works is that you listening for the sound of it. I walked away before he was done with all of them, but I watched him do a couple. And if it rings, more or less, even though it's embedded in wood and lead, it'll have a sort of a ringing sound to it. That means it's probably good. It means it's not broken anywhere. If it's a duller sound, that means you should probably replace that bolt, or at least drill a hole next to it, put another one in. So his verdict was that they were okay, although that is no substitute for actually removing the bolt and looking at it all along its length. They sure look good from in here. And when I first got the boat out on the hard, I think even before I moved the boat, I put a socket on a breaker bar and just gently check to see if I saw any movement, and also checking to see if I tried to turn it and it just it came off in my hands. That would be a bad sign. He also did a very thorough tap test of the exterior of the hull with a hard rubber mallet, and he didn't seem to think there were any problems there. That's something I haven't done. I've tapped here and there. I certainly have looked closely at these planks over the last couple of years, but I didn't do a thorough, frame by frame, all the way up and down, tap, 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 to listen for any weird. Again, it's all about the different sounds to determine if you have one plank and you hit two different sides of it and it has two different notes, that means it's probably split all the way through. I didn't notice that. I don't think he didn't go the length of every plank, but he didn't cock an eyebrow or say anything about that. We talked about the seams and such, and we talked about the nature of cedar and what it does when it dries out and when it takes up. The decks, he agreed that the mid deck has got issues, but I told him I'm working on making it more watertight all the time. It was hard to not try to make explanations and excuses for myself, because it's not that kind of test. He's not assessing me or my work, but yeah, it was funny. I had to keep catching myself from stopping myself from doing that. He had very few hard recommendations, like you really ought to change that. The one that stands out in my memory, again, I haven't reviewed his full report yet, and I wasn't looking over his shoulder the whole time he was doing the survey. He spent about half a day doing it. He recommended safety covers on the inside on this panel, which I've made the parts for it. I'm going to try to at least get started on that today, although I have a few other things to do today, and it's already damn near 9 a.m. He also made a hard recommendation that I swap out the gate valves, the big boys that handle deck drains, cockpit drains. He thought it would be feasible. I kind of nixed that idea over a year ago, just because of how tight everything is in there and the difficulty of getting something that will fit in there. But he seemed pretty confident that since it's detachable from the through hull and from the T fitting, that I might be able, if I get the right one, I might be able to get a good ball valve in there. The problem with check valves is you can't tell, because of the handle is circular, although I might mark them so I know. You can't tell really what position it's in. It's possible the handle could come loose, and even if you have the handle with some kind of index mark on it, you don't really know where that gate is. Like a gate valve, it has a screw and it comes down and closes the aperture. A ball valve is, like the name implies, is a ball with a hole in it, and you can turn it 90 degrees this way, open, or 90 degrees this way, shut. And that's it. That's all it can do, whereas a gate valve is variable. Also, I've heard stories of things getting lodged in there under the gate. But I think, yeah, I don't know. I got to do that pretty soon. I'm going to close them for the launch. The worst case scenario would be that because they're just below the water line, that I could get water up in the cockpit, because my lower cockpit drains don't have check valves. That's another thing I really should do. He didn't have much opinion one way or the other about that. but I think I want to do that in the future. I just didn't want to start tearing that cockpit tub apart any more than I did this time around. He had nothing to say about the fuel system. He seemed, I didn't ask him if he was impressed or anything, but he didn't say, oh no, the tanks are no good like that, or you can't use that kind of valve, or blah, blah, blah. I told him everything was new, and he just kind of checked it out. We'll see what his report, he might think some more. I might have thought some more about it last night and decided to include something in his report other than that. But I talked to him about the future of the hull, my idea of maybe overplanking this boat in some fashion in the next couple of years. Maybe the next haul out, maybe not. And he said that was a pretty good idea, except he pointed out something I hadn't thought of. It would make it difficult to get at the primary fasteners to inspect them. But that's not something you necessarily want to do every year. So I don't know, but it raised an interesting point. I hadn't really thought about that. You can't I could put another layer of wood over this wood and call it good to go and not worry about the fasteners that hold the original wood onto the frames, but you kind of still have to worry about them. You can't count on a sheathing of probably much thinner wood to hold the whole thing together. But overall, he said structurally she was good. He was actually impressed with the dimensions of the frames, which are, I think they're like 2 inch by 2 1/4 on 13-inch centers. I've often looked at it and thought to myself, that's not that beefy. I've seen other sailboats at least of similar design vintage, some very old, some of these old boats that are over 100 years old and have been continuously maintained, that their frames are on 10-inch centers and they're much bigger in proportion to the overall size of the boat. They might have metal floors which tie in the frames at the bottom to the floors, which are the beams that go across down in the bilge. And I've often looked at this boat and thought, I don't know, man. But people say they're stout. If you look at the overall proportion of the boat, looking at it that way, I'm thinking, yeah, maybe he's right. The aft deck, he didn't have much comment except that he said he had no idea. He said, I really don't know how long the black locust will hold out without treatment, but neither do I. I know it's often used raw in outdoor applications, sometimes on boats. I've heard of a couple of other boats that don't have black locust decks, but they have some trim pieces or things like anchor bits and stuff like that, or cleats, wood cleats that are made out of the stuff. If I got to throw some oil on it or whatever, I got to throw some oil on it, whatever. I was planning on keeping an eye on that anyway. As for the mid-deck, his recommendation was to tear it up, to epoxy, to put plywood down, and epoxy the snot out of that. Maybe not even screw it to the deck beams, because this section is very, very narrow. The deck isn't super structural along either side of the housetop, or even really around the mast. And then seal that up completely. Then, if I still want to put planking on top of that, that should be glued down also with no screws, which makes a lot of sense to me. Tricky to do, to pull off. I have a feeling I would get halfway through that and wind up saying, you know what, I'm just going to have a fiberglass deck. I'm just going to put some fiberglass down. But that's going to be a major job. I got to keep trying to make what I've got here a little more watertight. Because, and I can't really attack it from below because of the laminate. I'd have to pull all that Formica or whatever it is out of there. Yeah, I have a little work to do on the ends of some of these deck beams, and I got things like some of these are delaminating and stuff like that. Not the end of the world. And doable in the water. But yeah, that deck, that'll be a major mission. The boat really should be undercover for that. If I'm planning on doing ply and sealing it up and then later putting planks on, I could feasibly do it a little bit at a time so the boat isn't completely wide open. I don't know. I didn't talk to him much about that. His consulting capability has limits, although for the amount of money I was paid, I kind of felt like I could have got some more. But yeah, it was just for a C&V. A survey is not cheap. This is why I didn't do it the first time around. Because I knew when I realized how hard it would be to find a place to haul this boat out around there. I wasn't planning on coming here initially. I was planning on trying to go closer to where the boat was. I started to realize, man, you could, I mean, let's say, okay, you bring it all the way down there. It's like an 8-hour round trip. Like, what if I had it hauled out and a survey done in the shape it was in then? I would have seriously questioned my purchase decision. I've been telling myself the last 2 years, you would have bought her anyway. But I don't know. And then I would be out several $1,000s. And the owner, the seller would have to take it back because the sale wouldn't be final. But at least the seller was willing to do that. In some cases, if you got a boat in such condition, the seller might say, as is, no survey, either take it or leave it. If you are thinking about getting into an older boat, whatever kind it might be, and you're in that situation, my advice to you is really be sure you're willing to wait for a survey or just walk away. It's not unethical for a seller, in my opinion, to say, no, I'm not going to have you bring this thing back and after being told by a professional that it's not sellable. You either buy it or whatever, or I'll have it hauled and scrapped somewhere. What else? Yeah, anyway, that's where we're at. I've already started on the last bit of electrical stuff. Other than finishing up dressing and putting my covers in there, I'm trying to get part of my navigation light, my port and starboard running lights installed. I did a little work on that yesterday, and we're going to finish that up today. Believe it or not, I took everything out of this boat yesterday for the survey. Just about. Except for a couple of things you see on the counter. And look at it already. Yeah. I got to take more stuff out. There's stuff I got to take out still, and there's stuff I got to bring back. Dock lines, fenders, whatever else I can think of. But that's for tomorrow. I think I should I don't know. I'll probably do some of it this evening, but tomorrow morning I'll finish up on that. Then tomorrow afternoon, probably around 2 p.m., if everything is ready, they're going to bring the travel lift over here and pick this old gal up for the first time in over 2 years and set her gently in the haul-out slip. That reminds me, I've got to mark out my lift points. They probably remember, and I will be there, of course, but I'm going to mark them, just put some blue tape here and there so it's obvious. Anyway, more on the launch tomorrow morning. I'll talk about that some more. Right now, I got to finish my electrical work and some other things. I do want to try to get the covers, at least the AC cover on the inside of this door. It's already about 9:10. We're launching at around 2 p.m.-ish. But I'm trying to do other stuff to make sure the boat's ready to go in the water and then deal with that, time permitting. Got things squared away on deck. I got my fenders ready, even though I don't need them on the boats and the straps. I thought I had more good mooring lines. I only have one decent one, but I think where we're going to move her to, there are lines already there for me to use. James is going to be here sometime this morning with the drone and also to help me with stuff. I just got to square away and try. I've got more stuff on the boat than I had intended for launch, but it's going to be all right. I'm going to keep it all up high, away from any trouble areas that we might need to look at or do something about. Although there's not a whole lot we'll be able to do inside. And as long as she's in the straps, it's not there's no real emergency. You can always just lift her out slowly if she's full of water, which I doubt. I'm pretty confident. There's one more very important task that I need to perform this morning. This is a Mardi Gras coconut. It's from the Zulu crew, year 2014. My buddy Stevie Z, who lives in New Orleans, hooked me up with this. Looks like he's lost an eye. Oh my goodness, I didn't notice that till now. Well, we'll find you another eye, brother, but one is enough to see with. If you don't know, the deal with these is they throw them off the floats during Mardi Gras. And these are highly coveted, especially the Zulu, I think, might have been the original crew that started doing that. And back in the day, they used to throw, they weren't painted up. They would just throw raw coconuts into the crowd until I think somebody got beamed and got hurt really bad in the 80s after probably over 100 years of doing it, and sued them. Yeah, they started using the dried out ones. What I'm going to do is I want this guy to be with me, especially for launch. So I got to figure out a way to hang him up. Yeah, we're going to drill a hole in your head. It's going to be all right. Bring it around about halfway. Tie a clove hitch. Sort of. Yeah, laissez les bons temps brûler. Oh yeah, tell you what, if you protect me during this launch, you will remain here in a place of honor. Yeah, there will be many bemused questions about what that is. Oh no, somebody might recognize it right away. All right, I'm pretty sure I've already done this, but let me just review my pre-launch. Yeah. Raw water intake is closed. We're not going to be starting the engine. That's also closed. The feed to the sink. This is dogged. We're not leaking. Fuel tanks are on, which is fine. Wonder if I should shut them off. Nah, I can leave them on. Cockpit drain. If I were expecting rain, I would leave them open, but I'm going to close them. I need to have the handle for this gusher handy. Where might that be? Right here. I gotta put some kind of clip in there. What else? The seacock for the galley sink is closed. That's it for my underwater seacocks. I've got my bag full of bungs just in case. Plug an outlet, plug a through hole from the outside if need be. Relatively easy. The water she's going to be in, I could probably go over the side and stand up next to the boat. It's going to be pretty shallow. Well, yeah, I could. I don't think it'll be over my head. It's probably going to be in that slip. I haven't checked the tide for this afternoon. I don't know. Maybe 5 feet. Maybe 6. Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll have to live with this for a while and see how it works out, but I'm pretty happy with it. I'm pretty happy. I'm less happy about this, but it's better than nothing. And now I can really come in here without worrying about shorting my body across the AC bus, which would be extremely painful and potentially hazardous. I could barely fit my big old head in here, but it's cool. It's all in here. The surveyor had no comment on how cramped it was. I didn't press him. I think he was satisfied that it was good for it all to be in one place. He did ask me if this was a fail-safe type galvanic isolator, and I couldn't remember if I knew how important that was or got one specified. He said he was going to look it up. He actually called the manufacturer. I don't know the answer he got, but he's going to let me know in his report. The meaning of that is this is in line with the neutral, with the ground, the safety ground for 120 volt AC from shore power. And the idea is what it does is it helps prevent galvanic corrosion below the waterline if there's straight current in wherever you're hooked up to shore power. But if there's a problem at the shore power, if there's a dead short between, say, positive and negative, if this remains open, you're not going to have a safety ground in your onboard system, which is potentially lethal, not to mention fire. But there's definitely a shock hazard, and fire could be a serious problem. So a fail-safe type, when a short occurs, it will trip. There's some sort of internal fuse or something that will keep it 100% bonded. It'll no longer work as a galvanic isolator, as far as I know, but it will at least provide a safe path to ground from the boat. So I don't have time to even think about it today. But if he forgets to put it in his report or whatever, I'll have to double check it myself. That's pretty damn important. I think I mentioned he gave the boat a positive, if not glowing, review for its structural integrity. He checked the keel bolts. I think I mentioned that just by tapping on them. We are about 2.5 hours away from launch-ish. I haven't double check with them, but from what I see going on down by the river, I think they're going to be ready. James should be here in 20 minutes or so. I said I wasn't going to shoot with the GoPro, but I have to. Look at that. So here we are again. Put her in about, well, I've lost track of time. Maybe about an hour ago, halfway to the water line, and then just now brought her down a little more. We got 2 automatic 120 volt pumps going, doing their thing. Probably about 1,800 gallons an hour. We're on shore power, so I can keep the battery going to run my built-in bilge pumps, which are cycling. Everything's cycling right now, so it's pretty good. It got to the point before we set up the these cabled ones where the water was starting to slop out of up above the sole alongside the mast. I want to grab my flashlights and show you all the progress. It's not too bad. It's about what I expected. This is a little disturbing. It's coming from somewhere very close to the water line, I think. I didn't really do anything with the seam there, but that was definitely one that kind of, one side of the seam compound has sort of started to let go. So, and that's not really getting any better yet. So, but it hasn't even been a day. She's going to be, it's Friday afternoon. She'll be in the straps all weekend at least. It's kind of I think even if I move this crap, I wouldn't be able to see anyway. It's kind of a drag that I got all these slats. Yeah, it is coming from behind that locker, I think, or right there perhaps. But my frame repair, where I did penetrate the hull with new screws, it's fine. Dry as a bone. We got a little more trickling than I expected forward, but that's predictable. Bill's take is that it's about normal, about what you expect. And he's confident, as I am, that the cedar, it being cedar, she will take up relatively quickly. If this were a mahogany or teak or even Doug fir boat, it could be bad. The biggest problem here, other than the fact that having vacuumed 3 times I didn't get all the debris out, is that this bilge is not very limber fore and aft. So you can actually, well, it's getting better now, it's improving, but before, like, one bay was almost full, the next one was almost empty. It was kind of crazy for a little while. And yeah, my work there, butt block, dry as a bone. Got a little weeping on that seam, little teeny bit, far less than I expected, far less. And that continues to there. That's super dry. That seacock is holding. All the seacocks are holding. Stuffing box, yeah, is dripping a little bit. I might get I got my wrenches handy. I should hit that real quick. That's dripping more than it should with the boat at rest, but I didn't go to town on it really. And at least now I know there's probably no air in there. I expected that to weep. That one of these seams was, you could see a little daylight sometimes. I think it's the one below that brace, which was the support for the water, the fuel, water/fuel tank. My old gate valves are holding up, I think. The cockpit's not filling with water, although the water line is just above that. It's not up really, the water line's not up there. It's down just above that through hull. We're working. Battery charger's working. We're still seeing almost 13 volts. I had a problem child here where cotton was showing. Put some caulk on it, and it's weeping here, but not really. It's not really that seam. It's below it, so that's cool. She's back in the water. She's back in the water, and she's very, very thirsty. I'm gonna tighten up that the nut on the stuffing box and see what else I can talk to you about. Not quite 3 hours now since we dunked her. And I'd say it's looking pretty good. I meant to time the intervals for all of these pumps, but all I got to say is in the last half hour, I was busy doing other things and talking to people and uploading a short to YouTube and stuff like that and answering messages. But yeah, they're getting pretty quiet. There's obviously a fair amount of water in this bilge. Definitely more than when I bought her. And there's a lot more junk floating around still. Chunks of wood everywhere. Oh, there goes that one. But I'm pretty satisfied. The scariest thing was right here, the waterfall. It's definitely slowing to a trickle now, which is a good thing. I don't know if you can see that. I didn't pick up the light. It's getting late in the day. Dark pretty soon. Despite the mild drama of all this, and the fact that the stuffing box, I believe, is still dripping, which it isn't supposed to do at rest, but it's a brand new install, so. Still a little tiny bit. Not too bad. Getting better. Yeah, I'm saying despite all the drama, one more time, despite all the drama, it just feels great to feel her, even though we're not freely floating, we're in the straps and kind of, it's just past low tide, almost an hour past, the tide is coming up, she's getting lifted in the straps, the breeze has picked up, she's moving around, it's just lovely to feel her moving around. Wonderful. I didn't even look in here yet. Well, not that you can see me, I can't see enough to make it worth it, but let's look at some of our, very hard to see. Oh, ooh, that's, ooh. Yeah, these slats definitely make it difficult to see what's going on. Yeah, there's a lot of debris in there. Yeah, that's just a straight up, a seam taken up. What is that? Cooking. I gotta try to get that out of there. I think at some point I gotta try to blow compressed air down from the top or something, because there's no other way to get these chunks out of here. It's not good. I really don't want to have to pull all these slats, but I might have to at some point. Maybe, actually, you know, now that I think about it, if I just remove one of these, one course, I'll be able to, I could even do it inside the locker where you can't see it. I could shove something up there. God, I surprise myself sometimes. That's a really good idea. I can't believe I didn't think of that in the last 2 years. But we're not going to do it today, that's for sure. The seagull's like, who's the new guy? Nice boat for me to poop on. What's up, Swan? What's the matter? Did you lose something? I could have sworn I left it right here. That's weird. It was a perfect day to launch, I gotta say. The wind's gonna probably pick up a little more tonight, but not much. I'm not minding this at all. I know I'm gonna sleep like a baby. Well, here he comes. You gonna come in here in this bay, Mr. Swan? Come on, making his rounds, I guess. Hello. This is Nina. I'm Sean. What's your name? He's on a mission, this swan. What's up, buddy? Coming aboard? Oh, he's looking for... Are there tasty bugs on my boat already? You can duck under that line if you want. I think he's the inspector. He's the port inspector. What? Examining my boat. Say hi. It's a big swan. Hi. Hey. It's a boat, you know, like all the other boats around here. This is great. Instead of woodpeckers, I get the Swan Inspector General. And there he goes. That concludes our inspection. I hope I passed muster.